I'm Ed Gibbs, KW4GF out of Virginia Beach. I am pleased that Mike asked me to moderate this session. I am a 50-year public school employee, either as an administrator, a teacher for most of my career, and also as a part-time tutor in the public schools. Any of you understand public schools? I'm in a Title I school, and those are the kids who need that help. So it's my pleasure to be here. I want to introduce on screen, some of you may already know her name, Ruth Willett, KM4LAO, and she's at Penn State, right, Ruth? Right, Ruth?
Yes.
There we go. Right next to me, I have the pleasure of introducing Kathleen Lamont, KM4TAY. She is a gifted resource teacher in what county? Prince William County, that's it. Also, Micah Alberts, W4MRA, and Micah is a high school. She's out of high school and pursuing amateur radio and other career opportunities. Abby Kimmy, KK7CFJ. I don't know much about Abby, but she will tell you. And we're all involved ham radio operators. So we're going to begin with the questioning. I've got questions for them, and I'll go around. And after the questioning and after the answering, if you have questions of them, especially in how to get your youth involved, how to get the teachers in your counties involved. All right, the first one will go to Ruth. How did you connect with amateur radio, and what attracted you to the hobby?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Ruth, KM4LAO. I found out about amateur radio because of Morse code. I was back in 2015, I was studying World War II history and the Navajo code talkers, and I got really fascinated by this form of communication, so I started teaching myself Morse code. And then by happenstance, I was talking with a friend, and he told me that if I got my ham radio license, that I could actually communicate with Morse code myself. So I got my license, and I haven't looked back since.
Okay. And by the way, Ruth won't tell you, but she's a native Southwest Virginia gal. Okay. All right. Kathy, go ahead. Same question.
I got involved through ARRL, through amateur radio on the International Space Station. Very interested in space and things like that. And I had a Elmer who basically said, "Did you know you can talk to space?" And that was pretty much it. I was hooked after that.
So I've always been interested in electronics and circuit design and making things, soldering, and I was just listening in on a YouTube live stream of someone who was designing a circuit board, and I said, "Hey, do you know how to learn more about circuit theory?" I had no clue what I was talking about, and this random person in the live chat said, "Hey, you should look into ham radio. It's a cool way to learn." And I got hooked on the idea of learning more about communicating with people all over the world without the internet, and I've been a devoted ham ever since.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Kimi, KK7CFJ. I connected with ham radio through Civil Air Patrol. They do a lot in emergency services, and I wanted to get more involved and do more. And there was a class on getting your amateur radio license. Didn't know much about it, but took it, passed it, and then one of my mentors in Civil Air Patrol sent me an email about Youth on the Air. And so I went to that camp, and that's when I really got to know the hobby. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now for the balance. Tell us a little bit about yourself when you're not involved with amateur radio. Ruth?
Absolutely. So I'm a PhD student in acoustics, so I am studying all about sound and vibration here at Penn State. So that's been on the academic side. That's kind of what I'm doing. My schedule is so crazy, which is why I'm on Zoom. But outside of school, I like staying active. I've been doing Muay Thai-based kickboxing for about 3 years now, as well as weightlifting and running. I'm doing a 10-miler race this fall, which I'm really excited for. And then I'm also in choir, so I get to do choral masterworks with our local community group. So yeah, those are kind of the main off the air stuff that I enjoy doing.
As a teacher, my activities involve taking care of children, even even outside of outside of work. I like to read. I'm a runner, and I do spend a lot of time going to kid functions.
So when I'm not on the air, which is pretty frequently these days, I am on the air. I like to write software for computers. I have a part-time job as a software developer and a hardware engineer as well. And I like to, explore new cities, get around on public transit, go for bikes and walks. And I am always, working on some new weird project that's never going to go anywhere. Lots of fun.
For me, when not involved, I really like to run. I ran my first marathon last year, so I caught the running bug as well. I work as an assistant in DC, and I also like to fly. So I got my private pilot certificate a couple of years ago, and so yeah.
All right, we'll be looking for her up in the air to communicate with. We always like an AA QSL card. All right, Ruth, tell us about your Elmers and influences in your hobby.
Absolutely. I have kind of three main groups. The first group is all of the Morse code operators and experienced hams in my verse club. I got licensed when I was living down in Georgia at the time, so the Gwinnett Amateur Radio Society was a huge part of that. And all the Morse code operators there that were so excited I was licensed and were a big part of helping me get on the air for the first time and have enough portable equipment that I could go places and do things. Also, once I got involved in doing satellite, I got some really good mentors from Sean, KX9X, and some others, super active on satellites, made sure that I knew what I was doing and were there for help. And now one of my big mentors is Neil WB9BPG with Yoda. He's been a big part of helping me develop as a young adult and as a leader in that space, and continuing staying active with ham radio stuff as we plan all the camp activities.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Two of mine are silent keys, and they were very integral in getting me to attend ham radio meetings and things like that. And without them, I wouldn't be connected with Woodbridge Wireless, which pretty much, if there's anything that I need or any expertise that I need, it's a whole club full of people. So I highly recommend clubs.
So my Elmer is Mike Imany, sitting in the back row over there. Thank you very much. He's been doing an amazing job and helping me out since I was a newly licensed operator with, I had no clue what to do with an off-center fed antenna. He helped me set it up. And just like Kathy here said, the clubs are so important. Joining the Vienna Wireless Society has been the best thing I ever did for my ham radio growth. And it really has been an incredible influence to just have this community of people who I can talk to about this hobby we have in common.
I would say first and foremost, Youth on the Air. I'll mention it a lot, but Neil Rapp as well. Ruth has been really, really kind in helping me get to listen to the ISS and do more with satellites. In Queen Creek, Arizona is where I'm from. I was part of the emergency communications group, so Joe Sammartino was in charge of that, and that was really great. He also ran the local ham radio club as well. I would also say the NIH club, just local near Bethesda, that's been really instrumental in my journey as well. I really like hearing the conversations, meeting new people, and they always give me great tips and advice and reach out to me, and I reach out to them a lot and have some great questions too.
All right, the next question, and it could be kind of twofold because we have at least one panel member who is a youth who is not influenced. So I will ask her a different kind of question. It won't throw you off at all. All right, I promise. Ruth, how did you get involved with influencing youth to become involved in amateur radio?
Yeah, so I really got started that direction because ham radio was such a big part of what got me into STEM related fields for my beginning of my career. So because of that, when opportunities started coming up for volunteering for STEM events to help influence other youth to become involved in amateur radio, I jumped on that. right away. I really started kind of, I guess I did a little bit in high school, but really started once I hit undergrad and started seeing, hey, all this radio wave stuff is really important. Like I knew it was fun, and then I got into STEM and was like, oh, this is really, really relevant to what I'm studying. So it's really, I just started volunteering for events because of how much it impacted me, and I've been able to do volunteer time because of that.
Micah, you kind of gravitates towards youth. So a person young came to you and said, what do I do with this? What are some of the things that you would make sure you would say to a youth that would bring that youth maybe interested in ham radio? Or better yet, what would turn somebody off from ham radio?
I would say the biggest thing that I would tell them is here are some things you can do to learn about ham radio. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me rather than giving up on it, because I almost gave up on studying for my technician. I had maybe 6 months where I totally forgot about it. And if I'd had someone to reach out to say, hey, I don't know what to do with this. This is complicated. What do I do? That would have helped a lot. Something that can turn people away from ham radio, I'd say, is just it can be very overwhelming, and having someone to reach out to can be very important. And also, I mean, we're talking young people here. We have to consider attention span. And I think the best way to deal with that is to make it very accessible for them to get into the hobby. And the best way to do that is to have people they can trust, who they can talk to about what they need to get started.
I would say, yes, definitely having someone to reach out to. And then something that would turn them off would be it's more affordable now, but at least in DC, I don't have a lot of space. And so it's really hard to have a setup. And sometimes the cost can be a lot if you want to do more intriguing projects or doing like an Earth Moon bounce or doing more HF. I usually throw my antenna up in the tree, the one that I made at Yoda Camp, and that takes it takes some space and a lot of setup. So yeah.
What are your favorite amateur radio activities? We'll start with you, Ruth. Go right ahead.
All right. I love Morse code, like I mentioned. That's definitely my favorite one on HF. I love doing single sideband as well, but Morse code's the one that got me into it, and I'm not stopping. I love being involved with amateur radio on the International Space Station. I've helped with now 3 television contracts and 1 direct contract with Yoda, and that's just incredible every single time, and hoping to kind of build up that volunteering more and give myself more time once I'm done with school. And I love doing portable operations, whether that's HF or POTA or satellites. I've been moving so much between working in Georgia and living in Southern Virginia, attending undergrad in Michigan, and now living at Penn State in Pennsylvania, that having portable stuff that I can take my radios with me wherever I am has been really, really helpful so I can stay active. So that's kind of the big stuff I'm involved with right now. Lots more I want to do, but I kind of got to wait for not living in an apartment to do those.
A lot of my time is spent with amateur radio on the International Space Station, organizing contacts, helping with contacts, and reviewing proposals and things like that. As far as in the classroom, I have attended the ARRL Teachers Institute a couple times, and the things that they have from there are amazing. So those of you that are donating towards education, when you specifically get the email that says, would you like this to go towards education? As a teacher, we greatly appreciate that. One of the greatest things that I think comes from that is all of the equipment. Anything that they teach you at those can be used immediately back in your classroom without having to find someone to help you or someone to fund or anything like that. So I think that's the greatest part of being able to do that and being able to connect with other people across the country too. They have a great youth network that's now set up too, so that some of the equipment that we got allows us to digitally communicate, which makes a big difference as far as school buildings, because we don't have access to antennas. And if we they're going to take them down. So I think that that's one of the greatest benefits of attending the Teachers Institute, especially as a teacher.
Yeah, so my favorite thing to do with ham radio is POTA. If you hear my call sign, I'm probably doing POTA. I've done POTA in 3 countries, which I've been to 5 countries, so it says a lot. And I like going all over the place. Whenever I'm going on a trip somewhere, whether or not it's related to ham radio, whether or not to take my Go kit is always something I consider. So I love doing portable operation, and I love digital modes, FT8, WinLink, VARA, that type of thing. So whether or not it's emergency preparedness, which I've also gotten into, and just generally operating in conditions that I can't really plan for adequately, winter field day, anything like that. I just love packing everything in a box or a backpack and just going somewhere new and setting up a radio.
For me, it would be, I like to listen to satellites, so like AO91 or the ISS repeater. Those are fun. I also like to use my ID52A for that, but the ICOM 7300 to operate HF on 40 meters. That's also fun. I'm learning CW. I'm not confident enough to get on the air. So I just sit at work and listen to it and try and become more fluent. But
How many of you are CW operators? I noticed when Jim was talking about the ham, and Micah could probably, verify this. You want to find CW operators? Do POTA. Either hunt or activate. And if you activate, you're going to have people all over looking for you. And if you hunt, they're there. This is a key question. And Micah had actually brought out some of the points. What are the challenges with youth in learning ham radio? Ruth?
I think there's a couple, and it keeps it interesting for us that we're trying to help them learn. One of the biggest things we've seen at Yoda Camp is how well peer-to-peer teaching works for camp activities. We have older hams there as volunteers and mentors, but most of our sessions are peer taught by other campers or camp alum that are ages 15 to 25. Because of how well that works, a huge challenge, I think, is trying to find peers to teach a variety of topics to youth outside of that setting, because there's often only one or a few in a geographical area. And that's been one thing I've seen as a challenge. I think another one is kind of having a ready-made, I guess elevator speech is not the best word for it, but that's what I'm going to go with, about why ham radio is useful. Because so often if I talk to someone who's maybe not technology inclined, their big question is, well, why would I want to do that? I can do that on my phone. So figuring out how you can kind of synthesize ham radio information down to a little bit of a soundbite to help capture in attention, and then have hands-on demos. So just a combination of things that I've seen that have been challenging.
As an educator, I think one of the things that is challenging is trying to find a way to put this into a curriculum. I'm elementary K through 5, so there are some things that pertain directly to us, very minimal. So it's usually middle school and up. I have licensed youth, and when we do, I think the biggest difficulty is one, cost, which is one of the reasons why I love EchoLink, because EchoLink, as long as you've got an adult that can set you up with an EchoLink account, if you can find an EchoLink repeater around the world, you've basically got HF privileges. But I think that is the challenge, is that when you do have youth, is finding a way to bring their adults in. Usually when I got our youth on the air, we finally had adults that were on the air with them. And that has stuck with a lot of our youth, is making sure that they have that. And especially when you're looking at students that have access to a billion different things, whether you're going to soccer or gymnastics or any, this is just one more activity to throw at them. So it has to be something that they're interested and excited with. And it's not hard to get them interested and excited about it. This is very different than our typical education to be able to tell that. As soon as I said I have a club and if you guys would like to come join, I had 20 kids that were like, oh, this is really cool. Can you tell me more? They had never seen it. And I think the uniqueness of it is what can bring them in and keep them.
I think one of the big challenges is people have been saying cost. It seems very expensive to do things the easy way, and it is. And you can get an FT8 for $150 if you're creative, but it's definitely a barrier. And I think one of the best things we can do about that is Echolink or club stations, inviting people for a contest, like, hey, I'm running a contest station, you want to come over and operate under my call sign. That's another great way we can reduce the barrier to entry. I think there's a lot of steps involved to getting a license. You need to get your FRN, you need to take the test, you need to register with all that. It's very complicated for someone who is interested but not quite passionate about it yet because they haven't experienced it yet. And I think that is definitely something that their amateur radio community is working on and is going to improve. And I hope it does get better.
I would say the small community of youth in ham radio, it's like we mentioned earlier, great to learn the hobby with others, like a peer. I would also say my parents weren't licensed and didn't know much about the hobby at all. And so it was more difficult for me to reach out to Elmers or have a mentor, or I was able to look up email addresses in my area and contact them. But I think that step is very difficult to reach out and get some help on that. Because you can get frustrated when you're Googling questions and trying to learn from Safari.
All right. What do you see as the future for youth in amateur radio? How do we promote amateur radio as a lifelong hobby? Ruth?
That's such a fun one, and one that I'm really passionate about because I've lived through several stages of being a youth in ham radio already. Personally, I really kind of think that I see the future of youth being a hobby that we, continue working hard to get young people interested in this high school, college age, but we continue expanding how we help make sure that they know how many different types of activities they can do, which then kind of jumpstarts it into being a lifelong hobby. I feel like promoting it as a lifelong hobby really kind of involves a certain level of connection with other hams, willingness to be involved in your local clubs and your communities, because that's really where you're going to build those connections that make you want to come back, and a focus on helping us just learn about the different hobbies and connect with different mentors who can do different things. Because for me, at a certain point in my mid-20s, I kind of hit the point where it's like, hey, time is the biggest challenge for me staying active. There's so much that I'm trying to get off the ground just for life as a whole. But if we keep focusing in our outreach with youth and young people on how many different things there are to do in ham radio, I think that's going to help that age range still stay active, because they'll know, hey, today I don't have time to go put an HF antenna up, but I could build part of a kit, or I could go listen to Morse code online, or I could, go listen to a satellite pass. So stuff like that, helping youth get interested, because nobody has the same interests exactly. But also as a reminder that the hobby will still be here, even if for a year or two you're a little bit less active just because of life.
For me as an educator, one of the things that I spent time with is kind of recognizing and pulling out where amateur radio is happening. So using your cell phones, using how networks are put together. I was working with our robotics team, which we do have for elementary, and they couldn't figure out why the driver wasn't connecting to the robot. And we spent a little bit of time and pulled out one of the modules. I was like, do you see the numbers on this? I said, they don't match the numbers over here. You're on a completely different station. It's a completely different frequency. And they kind of were able to relate that back to ham radio to say, oh, So I'm not even on the same channel. No, you're not. You need to find the module that has the exact same frequency so that you can find it. And they were able to connect that and make that work. So I think making them aware of the fact that even if they're not using ham radio, they're using all of the principles of ham radio and a lot of the things that they're doing. And by knowing the background for ham radio, it makes those things that they do want to do and know how to do a little more intriguing because they understand the theories behind it.
I mean, I see a future for ham radio where we celebrate all types of diversity. We keep people engaged just by letting them know that this is a hobby that is there for them when they want to practice it. And to be honest, I'm not sure we need to promote it as a lifelong hobby for anyone, because when someone who finds ham radio and they think it's interesting, I think it'll happen naturally. If they want it to be a lifelong hobby for them, then it will be. We just need to get as many people as possible, as many youth as possible engaged in ham radio so that they have the opportunity to pick up on it being a lifelong hobby for them if that's what they want. And it's critical that we just make sure everyone feels welcome and we keep all and we keep asking youth, hey, this is a cool thing you want to do. Are you interested? And we just get as many people as we can interested in ham radio. That's the critical component, is bulk outreach, in my opinion.
I would say I'm very optimistic. I think ham radio is very engaging. It's very educational as well. And I think promoting that educational aspect and all the different facets of ham radio that you can do is definitely something to point out. To promote it, I would say social media is everybody's on social media these days. And so continually going on there, promoting it, talking about it, just having conversations with people when they ask you, what do you like to do? Or, what are some of your hobbies? I always say ham radio and go into my little elevator speech. But yeah, I'm very optimistic.
Okay, final question. How does one follow up on a young person going to a camp or a special event? How do we keep that person focused in ham radio? What are some suggestions if you have any? And if you don't, that's okay. Some of us have a lot of ideas and some of us don't have a lot of ideas, and it's okay. Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, so coming at this from the Yoda Camp perspective, we've been able to have good success with following up with students after attending camp. And some, like a requirement for campers to come to camp is they have to be licensed. But some people come having gotten licensed 2 months before, and it's their first thing they're doing in the hobby, really. So we have a widespread here. What I've had fun doing the last couple of years is, using off-the-air contacts like social media and email to stay in contact with campers, and using that to help plan, working each other on the air if they have access to a station, especially with a mentor, in their local club, as well as just planning to meet up with students at hamventions and hamfests to see what they've been doing since we met for the first time at camp or whatnot. And in terms of again, for camp specifically, one thing we've done that's worked really well is having a small number of campers return every year to serve as leaders and help build up their interest in the hobby through the leadership side of things and getting to experience camp from another point of view, which has worked really well. So yeah, those are kind of the things I've been doing the last couple of years.
In the classroom, we do a lot of different activities, and that's one of the things, like pulling in POTA, pulling in how the frequencies match, how they don't match. And remember when we looked at this, bringing in guest speakers that come in and talk to my class or show them how they've used ham radio, or here's another cool thing, we've built antennas in the classroom, and just again showing them the same thing that Ruth had said, like this is around for a while. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So finding another activity or finding one more thing, or if you didn't like this part, maybe you'll like this part, because ham radio has so many applications across so many places. okay, maybe you don't like this part, but did you know about this? Did you know about this? You don't want to talk? Here's digital. There's so many different options that I think being able to share all of those helps continually bring them in, and kind of hook them into other aspects until they find something that they really enjoy in it.
I think the biggest way we can keep youth engaged after events is to just exchange contact information. I mean, it seems so simple, but I see it. I see it not happening all the time. You need, and I think a very simple way is you just keep a QSL card on you or a stack of them that has your email address or your phone number, and you just say, hey, if you have any questions about what you just learned or what you did here, just reach out to me anytime, and I will get back to you. I think that would be very important. And I think another thing we can do is just stay in touch. Say, hey, what have you been up to? How's the hobby been for you? Is there anything I can do to help you? I think that would be very important for a lot of people who, are licensed but don't know as much or aren't quite ready to take their first independent steps in the hobby.
I feel like everyone covered all the bases, just echoing, following up, contacting them on all other social media platforms. Yeah, just keeping in contact, being a great friend, and staying excited and involved in the hobby.
I would also add making sure that they are connected to a club, because obviously that's where the rest of it comes in when you're not around, is knowing that there are 20 other people that they could be asking.
Okay. Thank you, panel. But we'll now open up to any questions that you might have, especially maybe the politics of getting things done in schools. That could be one. Kathy and I know the answer to some of that, but you might have some other questions.
Micah, you mentioned bulk outreach. Micah did something that was just a genius stroke. He wrote a little article for a local paper, and you probably remember this, but if I could get you to read what you wrote, it was genius.
Now, I'll be honest, I did not write this. I designed it, but honestly, I can't remember his name. Larry, right. Yeah, Larry wrote this and had it just in a plain text document. Yes, well, what Larry wrote that I put into this nice ad was, five reasons to become a ham. 1, it's digital communications designed for your dystopian future. 2, college admissions will think you're smart. 3, talk to people you don't know in places you've never heard of. 4, amuse your friends at parties with ham jargon. That one has come in handy for me. And 5, it has crazy aura. And then some QR codes to reach out. And then there's a second one: geeks, nerds, and brainiacs rule the world. Get your jumpstart with ham radio.
Now let's be very clear. Mr. Larry is part of the AI mafia.
So when I was a kid in the 80s, which feels like a long time ago, listening to the space shuttle, listening to the space shuttle rebroadcasts on the local repeaters was one of the things that kind of got me hooked, similar to, I guess, these days with ARRS, right? What's the plan kind of in the educational space for replacing the magic of ARRS when it goes away?
One of the things that we're looking for most specifically is looking at other space stations, and looking at commercial flight. We've done things with Fram, we've done things with Axiom, and those are the kind of things that we're looking forward towards. Amateur radio was one of the first operational payloads on the space shuttle, and was operating 7 days after they launched. And we're working to continue moving forward with that as we continue. So we are looking and putting in grants and applications in any of those places where they do have commercial flights and things like that, since that's the direction that they're going. And that is in the works. So yes, we are aware that it is falling soon, but we're looking for other things that are going up.
Any other questions? Any others? Okay, for those of you who are really, really interested in getting into the schools, my suggestion will be, 1, get a teacher interested. Why? We can send them to the Wireless Institute at a very, very reasonable cost, Jim, which is how much?
$100. It's
$100
$100 to put in your application, and they hold on to that. And if you don't get in that round, they return your $100. So
Now, why get a teacher interested? because the teacher can talk to the principal. They can talk principal talk, like what SOLs are we covering? Kathy is right about elementary school. We have light and electricity and sound. That's it. And we have to pull it around there, but middle school and high school, even better. So that would be my way because, and if you're going to talk to a principal, never go to a principal and just talk. Have a hard copy of a plan because that's what they want to see. And those are two political things that'll be helpful. Any other questions?
One of the things that seems to be somewhat difficult is getting into the public schools, and that's a very difficult thing, which kind of leaves you with specialized schools or parochial schools or the rest. If you can get through all of the red tape it takes to get into a school, we do have a school that's right by me, and I have to be very I'm just very enthusiastic about it. It's called Schofield School. It's a middle school. They do the school club roundup each round, and they're usually like number 4 in the nation. So, I mean, as far as a practice building an activity, I believe it's just voice at this point. I don't know if they're doing anything else, but I was just very proud to see the numbers that they were getting. As a matter of fact, their mentor called up, and I'm sorry, doing it already. They're Elmers, but now we have to call them mentors. But they had asked them, well, how about us doing this with colleges too? Because they were actually competitive with colleges. I know they kicked Texas A&M once, and they weren't happy. So they came back the next time. But they said, no, it has to stay in the same class. But just as a team building exercise and the rest, that would be great. And Steve Goodgame is fantastic. He will definitely be able to move you in the right direction.
He's a huge supporter. He does amazing. The things that Steve has put together have been amazing. He has put together forums where kids can talk. He's supplied us with equipment so that kids can talk. And all of that is huge. And I think that's one of the things that Steve has been great about is creating an organization of teachers, which also is creating an organization of youth that finally have a place where they can talk, knowing that they're going to get on the radio and find somebody else that's the same age.
All right. Let's thank our panelists for taking their time on a Sunday, especially those of us who have to do lesson plans for Monday. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your attendance today. It's very helpful. Thank you for coming. Bless you for coming to this. This is great.